That Was Yesterday podcast is brought to you by Define Mind and Body Wellness, my wellness center here in Glastonbury, Connecticut, where we specialize in holistic services to help shortcut the process so that you can see results fast, but learn to do it in a habitual way. So many of the topics we talk about are part of the program that our clients receive, except they get much more in-depth detail. Also, my workbook of the 10-week program to lose and never look back, which is only available to our patients at Define. If you are interested in holistic body fat spot reduction, or our pod to increase your metabolism, or our cold plunge, or our sauna, which is the best sauna in the world, that I promise you. I know that sounds biased, but you'll see for yourself. Please go to definewellnesscenter.com. You will be prompted to put your information in, and make sure to mention podcast when you do, as you will be eligible for a bigger discount on our introductory services because you are a listener. Appreciate you. Have a great day and enjoy today's podcast.
If I had $1 for every time, especially a woman has told me that their doctor has told them they need to lose weight, I would have like another $10,000, something like that, just sitting there, because it's just a very common thing. And it's always like, well, no shit. Like, if you know you need to lose weight, you know you need to. No, nobody's like that naive. Everybody knows they have to lose weight. It's not easy, obviously. Now, there's a lot that goes into it not being easy, even if you are doing the right habits. But certainly, I know with our treatments anyway, if you are doing the right habits most of the time, you're going to get the result. It's just impossible for it. And I've never seen it not, if you are doing the right habits most of the time, right? So, I think where it comes down to the challenge for some is just like the consistency of doing those healthy habits. And it's oftentimes a lot of nuance. It's not like as simple as, again, a light switch you can just hit on and hit off. So today I want to kind of focus around that stuff because I know many of you know what to do, or at least know what to do mostly. But the consistency is the issue. And I do think sometimes there's maybe, knowledge is sometimes a part of it, but I think oftentimes like overwhelm sets in, but really there's something else behind the overwhelm, not so much like lack of knowledge. I mean, I think everybody knows drink more water, eat more protein, have more vegetables, right? That probably don't eat more carbs than your body can burn. I mean, these are things that aren't groundbreaking for many people. Now, when you start to get into the intermittent fasting and the supplements and the GI stuff, like there's levels of this, but certainly the foundational elements that I mentioned there aren't shocking to many people. So it's like, well, how do we kind of do that regularly? And so really it boils down to a few things. But certainly it's not that you're lazy. Like that is one of the worst sort of ways to look at that, or I'm not disciplined, or now's not a good time, as I oftentimes refer to them. Those are what we call ANTs, automatic negative thoughts. To the extent you believe that, you will continually find yourself in the same shit circle you find yourself in. And there's just no way around that. And that's your choice, but it's not the reality. You can be really busy, but it does not mean you don't have to be healthy, or that you can't optimize your setting, your situation. So really what I find is oftentimes people fail or fall off because your system's not built to sustain the behavior. And so once we can kind of build up the right foundation and address the right pillars of that foundation, then that's where things can really change. So, and also it's not about motivation. Like when people say they don't have motivation or they're not motivated, like that's the wrong way to look at it. Like that's essentially telling your system, like your health system, your body, your mind, your soul, your emotions, basically what you're saying to that is, hey, you're not really that important right now. But when I do feel you're important, I'll let you know. Like that's basically what you're doing. And like nowhere in life would you ever do that. Like if your car had a flat tire, you wouldn't try to drive, right? You just wouldn't. If you need an oil change, you go get an oil change, right? Like there are things that you do in your life to maintain the things that are important in your life because you need to, quote unquote. Now, we can all argue that you need to take care of your mind, you need to take care of your body, but it's more of like a like a long-term play that you need to. Short-term, you don't need to, you know? And I am constantly amazed by the human body because I meet so many different people. I talk to so many different people, and the amount that a body can sustain 50, 60% body fat, like that's crazy. If you just stop and think about it, the fact that a body can still function at 60% body fat is like, that's pretty amazing, man. It's pretty amazing. It just shows you how resilient the body is. So you don't need to do a lot of this stuff, but I would argue, like, physically anyway, you can get away with a lot for a long period of time. Now, don't rest on those laurels because it will bite you in the butt. I mean, yeah, I'm sure you probably know people who, you always hear like someone always has a wise ass comment of like, oh, my grandpa Joe smoked cigarettes till he was 98, and it's like, okay, cool. Well, like if that's what you think is going to work for you, good luck. But I wouldn't put my money on it. So physically, like you need to long term, not in the short term. Now, mentally, emotionally, you don't need to either right away, but I would argue you need to because we only get one go around at life. And if you're not taking care of your body, you can lie and say it's not important to you. People say it to me all the time, but that's not true. Like it's okay. I know why you're saying that, but we know that's not true. It is important to you. It's okay for it to be important to you. In fact, it should be important to you. It is your vessel. And you only get one of them. You can't replace any part of you. Like, yeah, you can get a knee replacement, but if go ask somebody who has an amputated leg, like what they would do for a regular leg, or go ask somebody. I have a friend in college who, man, this guy was built like a freaking brick shit house, like just huge, strong, great guy. The year after he graduated, jumped off a Bowie's Parallels from the neck down. What he would do to move, you know? So there's these situations that are just dire when you think about it, and it really could be a good perspective for us to say, wow, like it's. And I think I was talking to somebody in the group, but it was like, one of the things, it sucks when we get sick because you can't, like, you get a cold, you get COVID, you get a flu, whatever, you get a minor surgery, and it's like that's it is inconvenient. It really is. Trust me, I know. But it's like, but then you're over it. And so when you are in it, it's good to have that perspective to be like, this is something that's temporary because not everybody gets to have that, But the last point I'll make here before we kind of get into it is with the mental emotional part, I would argue that you do need to address that because while you don't have to, and you can just continually put it off and lie to yourself and deflect and avoid and blame and shame, all of that, those are all good tools that the human mind loves to use. But ultimately, it's never going to sit well. Like, it's the old adage, where you go, there you are. Like you can't avoid it. So if you're looking at quality of life, and you got to address that stuff. But I think part of what makes these things so difficult is that, like, and especially food, is that there's so much tied to food. It's like it's not something you can just avoid. Like you have to eat. Like you do have to eat eventually. So if you have if you don't have the right foundation set up, if you got a lot of mental emotional stuff driving you towards making bad choices, and you don't settle to ever take care of that, it becomes very problematic. Food only almost becomes the issue, but it's not the issue. That's why, like, all this food pyramid talk, it's like, great, yeah, another like less than ideal explanation of how people can eat, better than what it was before. But why don't we really talk about why people overeat and are unhealthy? It's not because of they don't know what to eat, really. I mean, yeah, it would be helpful if people learned actually like real nutrition that's pretty objective. And that's why I try my best to teach people and give all the resources. Some of you guys are like great about learning, and some of you guys don't want to ever learn, and that's on you. Nothing I can do about that. But I think the bigger issue when it comes to food is sort of like the way the mind interacts with the food, and that's kind of what I wanted to get to today. Is that, like, when you think about healthy habits, it's not just like, hey, do these 5 things. Like, yeah, for sure, strategy matters. Strategy does matter without question, and that's a part of this. But there's 3 other parts, right? There's the identity. So this is a really like deep one because most people might not consciously identify with what their subconscious identifies with. I talked about like before on these calls of like having have an identity, like, so if women who have struggled with weight, having an identity to being overweight, that's a very common thing that they may not consciously think about, but it's there inside of them, unless they address it. And it's not just with women and weight. I mean, this you can go. There's all this many problems in life trickle down to how our subconscious identifies. But that's a part of it. So if again going back to like, well, now's not a good time. It's like, so you're just identifying at your core, your identity is one that you only are motivated when it's convenient. And therefore you're only healthy when it's convenient. You're not identifying as somebody that's like, hey, no matter what, my health's important to me. And yeah, it might not be perfect, but I'm going to always make progress. Like that's a big difference. It's a big difference. But conceptually, it's one thing. Living it out is a whole nother thing. So the identity that we tell ourselves of like, I'm trying to eat better, or like, now is not a good time, or whatever that might be, is to like change that from, I am somebody who takes care of my body. And so this is where hypnosis really helps, because it just helps change the default settings in the brain of like resetting it. It's like I don't even know that you could do this, but you certainly conceptually wouldn't try to put like Windows 95 in your 2026 MacBook. Like, you wouldn't do that, right? But so many of us have an outdated operating system, and we just let it continue to run on, run. And that's another part of the issue I think we have as humans, is that evident by technology, for us to use technology, it's constantly evolving, but like the brain hasn't really evolved at all, and our environments have gotten harder and worse in a lot of respects when it comes to the human condition. So that's a challenge. It's a challenge. So you have to really be conscious about it. So things like hypnosis help. And so that's going to be the pattern that we're working on in hypnosis this evening. So strategy, identity. The third part is environment. Environment's a big thing. Sometimes you can't control many parts of your environment. I recognize a lot of you guys who have people in your life, maybe even in your house, who just refuses to take care of themselves. And I know that can be frustrating. Trust me. It's not like, I've had very close people to me who refused and died early because of that. It sucks, but there's nothing you can do about that, So to the extent you can control your environment, you really need to. And to the extent you can control it, there's a lot there. Like, it's not like black and white of like, well, my husband eats like crap, he doesn't care. My kids refuse to eat healthy. It's like, okay, so you're going to blame your health on them? Well, I'm not going to make 2 dinners. Like, don't make 2 dinners then. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's lines in the sand that you can draw. I'm not saying to like get a divorce over it or create all this friction, but if you're going to tell yourself that it's all or nothing, good luck, because you're going to find yourself in the same patterns over and over and over. So then the question becomes, well, what can I do? Excuse me. What can I do within my environment to set some boundaries, to create my version of healthy, to carve out my section of the cabinet, to, like, if my wife cooks and I'm not, today's not a carb day, she's not putting a gun to me to have carbs. Like, my conscious decision as an adult, like, I'm not going to have carbs. Now you can say then, well, oh, it's a discipline to do that. It's like, well, yeah, but no, it's not that. It's not that. It's like, we got to start to understand, like, you have the control in you. And that's where, this is where, if you do get to a point where you're like, well, I don't have that self-control. Well, yeah, to the extent you keep saying that, you're not going to. But that's a complete objective lie in reality. You actually do have it. It's just figuring out what is preventing you from utilizing it. That's the challenge there. So in your environment with your household can be difficult, but it's also something that you have to put in your favor. If somebody else in your household is grocery shopping and they're not buying healthy food, it's like, well, you better go grocery shop then, because, well, again, like, you're not going to change them. So, you can get frustrated at them and frustrated at yourself, but like you're just wasting energy. Like go grocery shopping yourself. You can do it. It takes 20 minutes. Um, so there's that. There are things like just water. Like part of drinking more water isn't just drinking more water. It's like set your environment up correctly. So like if your environment is such that like why do you guys think I carry this around? It's 128 ounces. I don't do that because I what I'm somebody like I talk a lot about parts work, right? A part of me that is primary, which has created a lot of success in my life, but has also created a lot of headache and frustration, is because that's what the parts do. They have pros, they have cons, they have positives, they have negatives, benefits, drawbacks. But the pusher personality, that pusher part of me is like go, 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 right? And I say that because like every time I fill this thing up, it's like literally like 3 to 5 minutes. And that pusher part of my brain freaks out. I have to like consciously be like, dude, chill the F out, man. You know? So that's a part of me, right? And I get that might sound like to some of you guys, but that's just what it is for me. But the point is that this is a part of my environment. Everywhere I go, it goes. It's my environment. I created that environment. It's like, oh, you drink a lot of waters. Yeah, because I make it happen. No, I'm not special in that. I just make it happen. I know that if I don't drink 1.5, 2 gallons of water a day, my system is compromised. My system is compromised. So it's like, we'll drink more water. Okay, how do we do that? Create a better environment for it. Speaking of environments, I'm somebody who, as you guys know, walking through Define, I truly believe what you see, what you smell matters. So if you're walking in a place that has negative vibes, that affects things. So like if you ever walked into my office, you would see like, it's designed for a very specific reason. I have reinforcements everywhere in my way, my area, because it inspires me. Things that inspire me, lift me up. That's my environment. If I can control that environment, it helps, right? It's like you ever not have the time to clean your car and slowly but surely, subconsciously, it's like eating away at you. It's killing you that every single time you open your car door, there's a level of frustration that kicks in because that environment is not conducive to a part of you that, cares. That matters. So when we think about like all of these things that we're talking about, you have to think about the operating in your environment and what is going to lift you up, you know. And if you work in a really negative environment, I recognize you can't just like get a new job. I get that. You're not going to change everybody in your office, but for sure, there are things you can do in your own little cubicle or your own little space, whatever that is, But you have to address it, right? Because in parts of the environment, this is part strategy, part environment, but like at some point, you just can't keep saying like, "Oh, my damn coworkers keep bringing in cookies or chocolate or donuts or this." It's like it's not their fault. Like again, like it's not that you don't have discipline either, but it's like, all right, at what point are we going to just stop blaming people and just let's address the issue, right? So if you are someone who falls susceptible to that stuff, we've got to look internally. What's blocking that self discipline? What's that's filling the void, or that's sort of creating a void of between like the part of you who wants to stay disciplined and a part of you who doesn't. You got to address that. But don't simply say you don't have discipline. That's just a lie. Just to be honest with you, you have discipline. Like you are showing up and doing things regularly, daily that require discipline. Discipline's a human trait we all have. It's not something you have or don't. It's just building the congruence. So what can we do? So there's that. But there's also like, if you look at my office right here, I have this is full of supplements, all my vitamins. This is full of supplements. Like my celery powder, matcha tea, instant organic coffee, super greens. Like it's not on accident that I do that stuff regularly. Guess what? If I don't have that there, I might be running out in the morning at home and not do in the morning and then not have it. It's not like I'm not immune to that stuff either. But again, it's like building my environment so that it's right there. So like I will. Other things with my environment slash strategy. It's like I'm at home always trying to cook extra for food to bring in. We have a refrigerator downstairs. when I have time, I grocery shop to fill that up. Sometimes I don't have time though. So then it's like, okay, well, what do we do? It's like, oh, I don't have time, rats. It's like, no, use strategy to say, okay, if I don't have time, what can I do? Right. So when I go grocery shopping, I'll buy like 12 to 15 tuna cans and oatmeal. And I have all the protein powders, various, vegan egg white away. Um, so that if I can't get to the store, like I have something here, right? So like that strategy meets environment, but you have to build a environment that's conducive to your goals. It's a part of it, right? And the last and perhaps the most important part is the nervous system. If your nervous system is stressed, you're going to make impulsive decisions, and there's just no way around that. So I get it. Like I run two businesses. I've got a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, all sorts of things going on in my life. I get it. I'm not saying I'm like Mother Teresa here, meditating 6 hours a day. It's just not my life. It's not possible. But like, that's also, again, not an excuse to like just let stress overrun my life, So it's like, okay, well, what can you do that you will do? So like for me, sometimes it's just taking 60 breaths. Even just like I did Tai Chi for a small period of my time in my life. And sometimes just subtle, just moving some chi around. Like literally, I might just look like a complete wacko sometimes. I don't really give a shit. But I will, wherever I feel, if I feel energy that I need to release, I'll use some of those movements just to kind of like get it off of me, get it a little bit. Like it doesn't mean I'm going to stop and do 15 minutes of Tai Chi. That'd be great. It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome to just come in my office and do 10-minute meditation every day. And yeah, perhaps I could maybe figure out a way to get that in. But like the level of stress it would to try to fit that in, given everything else I have going on, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So it's like, again, strategy. What can I do that I will do? 60 breaths, something we all can do. I also do breath of fire. That takes about a minute, 2 minutes, and things like that. So, or even after a workout, like just lying down and take 6 breaths. Like I found for me, if because I am always on the go, and generally whenever I work out, it's like on to the next thing. If I work out at home, which by the way, speaking of environment, I have a gym in my basement. That's not because I had gyms in a prior life. Like I have that equipment there for convenience. Again, 2 young kids, like got to use it, and people, this was something I heard early on when I didn't, before I had kids, people would always say to me, wait till you have kids. It's not that easy. It's like, okay, it's not, but like what worthwhile is. So it's like, yeah, I have kids, whatever. They know daddy's working out. You can come, I want you to come hang, but like I'm in the middle of a set and I will ignore you in the middle of a set, right? I love my kids more than anything, but they need to know your health is your number one thing. And they know now, and they would try early on if like I'm doing, and of course, like they're not doing anything dangerous. We're watching everything, but like to say that, oh my, I can't do that with my kids. They just cry. It's like, well, no, that's because you're just stopping. You're allowing it to happen. You have to build a habit. They're kids. You're the adult. You have to show them, hey, no, this is how healthy works. It's not convenient. That's the whole point of exercise. It's inconvenient. You got to do it though. And the byproduct of that is my kids have seen me and my wife do hundreds and hundreds of workouts. What do you think they do now? That's not genetics. That's behavior. That's modification. They're seeing, and they're seeing so much they want to do it, right? So that's a big part of the environment. But with workouts, one thing I noticed in my nervous system was I would work out and then go right to the next thing. And especially if I work out in our sauna downstairs at the Fine, it's not good for your nervous system to be like to work out super high heat. That is actually good for you, but to then go right from that, rushing home, that's not good. So like just taking 60 breaths, bring the heart rate down, transition, So you got to figure where in your life are you the most stressed and what things can you work in there. A lot of my hypnosis clients I work with, There's one of them, for instance, I'm thinking of. She works in a, one of the things that there's many things that we're working on with her, but one of the things she told me, like, this is her words, not mine, when we first started working together was like, I'm a doormat. Everybody takes advantage of me at home, at work, and I'm sick and tired of it. I have low self, like, but all that directly correlates with low self esteem, right? But at work, one of the issues was people would, just go and give her stuff and give her more stuff. And then there's some people she works with who are petty and dramatic. And I am not somebody as a coach who just listens to you complain. Like, I'm not your girlfriend. I am not your best friend. And that's not what I'm here for. I can hold space very well, but there's a difference between holding space and just being a sounding board. And in my opinion, having worked with so many people in this level, so much of therapy is just a sounding board session. It's good to get it out, but you don't need me for that. You don't need a therapist for that, by the way, either. But so like there was a time like, well, this person does this. I'm like, oh, just time out, stop. Not that person's fault, right? So it's like, how do we get you more control in that moment, to be more conscious in that moment? Well, that then goes to regulating your nervous system. So one of the things that we built for her was, I think I was like an 8 or 10 minute hypnosis audio that she can go listen to in her car. And then she was like, yeah, but you don't understand. When I go out to lunch in my car, all my coworkers are walking out to lunch for me, and then they're talking to me. And I'm like, so, okay, get into your car and drive 1 minute down the road, pull into a parking lot, and that's it, right? So that doing that, when she does that, it helps her nervous system regulate. Then she can make better controlled decisions. So I think the moral here is that it's not that easy. It's not as simple as just flipping a switch. But the thing that you have to recognize is that you have way more control of yourself than you're admitting to. And again, you can continue to put yourself down, but like, I'm not one who's going to allow that. It's not like, don't tell me that stuff. I'm not going to go, oh, poor you. No, like, let's stop that. Like, you wouldn't do that to your kid, would you? I had a client or a hypnosis client the other day share something that I thought was like so profound. She was talking about, one of her issues was she put herself down all the time. And her, her best friend said to her, she's like, stop talking about my best friend like that. It's like, damn, that's good. That's really good. Her best friend said that to her because she was putting herself down. That's powerful, right? And then it's like, and so then that all gets to the deeper issue, which is like self-esteem in that particular area, which is a way bigger issue than we like to let on. But it's like, if that part of you is not right, everything else is really difficult. So, these things that we're talking about tonight of like, environment and strategy and nervous state regulation and identity, they have to work together. But we can't just think that you're lazy or stupid or undisciplined or whatever because you're not doing something regularly. That's just not it. And to the extent that you think that's the case, then just get used to what you're used to now and worse, because that's what you're going to live in. But if you can at least step back and say, hey, like, I know I have more power, I just have a hard time connecting to it. Well, then that's something that's a conversation, right? Now that's something, what do they say in AA? All change starts with the truth. You have to be truthful. And a part of being truthful is recognizing your power that you have. And to deny yourself of that power is one of the worst things you can do. So, and this, and part of what, all of this stuff I mentioned, those 4 different areas, but part of also what makes this so hard is not just the mind, not just that we have to eat food, not that, it's not that we get a choice of doing that, but like the other part is these habits aren't new habits. In other words, like the identity, going back to the identity, it's oftentimes formed like early on, and there's a lot of women in menopause who maybe never identified themselves as fat. She never had that like low self-esteem per se, but didn't recognize, because she was able to get away with a lot with her metabolism. Maybe she had a fast metabolism, good genetics. And then menopause hit, and all of a sudden she's not able to get away with anything anymore. And now that creates more issues she's never used to dealing with. But her identity still would need to shift into somebody who takes care of themselves, right? But ultimately, what I'm getting at is like, uh, you can't break habits when life gets hard, and I recognize that it's hard to make lifestyle changes as an adult. This is why youth health is so important. Like most kids who grow up overweight turn into overweight adults. Most kids who have overweight parents tend to be overweight. You can blame genetics all you want. It's more environmental. You cannot convince me otherwise. I've seen way too much to know that that is the case. Not to say some people don't have slower metabolisms. That's 100% true. But environment matters big time, and so do behaviors. And so if you don't change behaviors, then good luck, because you're just going to rely on things outside of your control, and that's never a good way to live life. So we have to change the default system, and all of these things kind of go to it. So, one of the things that I want to put in your head now, and we can talk about it if we have some time after the hypnosis, is like, what's one habit you can start doing? What's one habit you can stop doing? Right? Start to think about that. And be careful when you justify habits. It's only 100 calories. It's only this, it's only that. Because ultimately, that might be true, but there's more going on than that. It's not just the 20 calories of creamer you put in your coffee. It's that those artificial sweeteners live in your gut, create more sweet cravings, don't really process, going to lead to more gut issues. Like there's just more than 20 calories, And if you justify it, like, it's one thing to justify, it's another thing to basically be like, look, I recognize it's not the best thing, but like, man, if this is the worst thing I'm going to do, I think we're good, right? And if you look through it through that lens, that's taking ownership of that habit, whether good or bad. But when you say like, well, it's just that, now you're just trying to justify it. When you're trying to justify, you're not facing reality, so it's just not going to end up working for you long term. So I want you to think about, what's one habit I can start doing, one habit I can stop doing. When do you break the habit? In other words, the habit that you want to start doing, think about in your past. What are the patterns around that? What time of day? What's the emotion? What's the situation? I'll give you an example here. A lot of times people will say, man, I get home from work and I'm cooking. I get into the house, it's a mess, it's chaos, everybody needs me. I'm starving. I'm cooking for my kids. I start eating my kids' food. Now I'm cooking for my husband. All these things. Before long, like I didn't want to eat the carbs that are on the table, but I ended up eating because I'm starving, right? It's very common. So that's important. It's like, okay, the time of day, out of work, the emotion is stress. The situation is sort of like getting home, chaos, trying to feed people, the whole thing. That can be a really big issue if you just let it happen. But if you step back strategically, be like, all right, well, let's see. All right, time. Okay, out of work. So what can I do at that point before it becomes an issue? Well, I can take a shaker bottle with me, put a scoop of greens powder in it, and then before I leave work, fill that up with water and drink that on the way home to stabilize my blood sugar and get that more water into me to help me not feel as hungry, so that I don't need to pick on things as much. Before I go into the house, I can convert some of that stress energy into a little more relaxed state. So before I actually exit my car, I can just take 60 breaths. Now, all of a sudden, you're walking in a little bit more calm. You're walking in with fluid in your body, stabilized blood sugar. It's less likely that you're going to eat things you don't want to eat. So that's just a simple way you can look at those three things: time, emotion, situation, and what can I do to rectify that? And what are you feeling in that moment? Be careful the way you talk about this. You want to be objective here, right? So it's like, a lot of times people will say like, I eat for comfort. It makes me feel good. But I always pause them and say, but does it? Yeah, no, I feel really good after. You do? Well, right after. Okay, what happens after that? What happens the next day? Well, I don't feel good. Okay, that's different. Now we're breaking it down, right? But if you're telling yourself, I feel really good after, well, what you tell yourself you're going to keep doing if there's reward there. It's Pavlov's theory, right? Like, we are very much conditional beings. If you do this, you get that. And if we train ourselves, no, you feel good after that, even though we don't really feel good after that. But there is a neurological response. There is something that does make us feel good in that moment, but it doesn't last. And it's important to acknowledge that, because now we're looking at it more objective, so we can now take some steps to, navigate it, right? So, and another thing with late night eating, this is another thing I see all the time. And here we got to separate this, because it's not hunger most of the time. Now, there are some people who have, who have like schedules in life where they have to eat late, and if that's the case, like, okay, fine, eat and just make better decisions later, right? Like, again, if we can look back objectively, it's like, okay, you can't have dinner. You get off of work at 10 o'clock. I get it. You have to eat. Yes, with you there. But like, you don't have to eat carbs at that time, right? You can have a salad and protein. Now, it's going to be hard for you to have a salad and protein if you're expected to go home and make a salad and protein. But if you take time before the meal prep, or you buy a rotisserie chicken, or you have something like kind of already there for you, or you order a salad or whatever ahead of time, you have that green shake to help you make a better decision before you get hungry. Now you can, that's one thing there. But when it comes to like people snacking late at night, it's never about hunger. People don't snack late at night about hunger most of the time. And if it is, then it's like, well, what did you have for dinner? How much protein did you have for dinner? Probably not enough. So eat more protein then, see how hungry you are at dinner, or after dinner. So in the environment of like most times when people are eating late at night, it's more about decompression than it is about hunger. So it's like, what can you do to decompress? Stretch, lay down, breathe, like whatever that is. And be careful, because it's something that stimulates a part of you, even your mind. Like, that's not decompression. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I sometimes I'll doom scroll for 20 minutes myself, but I do so just more allowing it to happen, but not knowing, not like just being aware of it and recognizing that's not decompression at all. It's far from it. So for me, decompression is just like, sometimes it's meal prepping. Sometimes like cooking is decompressing for me. Stretching is decompressing for me. Foam rolling is decompression for me. Taking a hot Epsom salt bath is decompressing for me. Those things help. And again, like skipping workouts, this is another one of those things. It's not like you cannot argue that you are too busy. Please do not try to make that argument. It's not accurate. Like, I just don't want to hear it. It's not true. And if you want to argue that to your grave, good luck. Go for it. You're just lying to yourself. Like, you have 5 minutes. Don't tell me you don't. You do. And that's okay. So it's like, how do we get it? How do we get 5 minutes? Let's figure that out. But don't lie to yourself and say you're too busy, because you have 5 minutes. So I think part of this, though, and I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I came out with a DVD, an at-home workout DVD, in like 2012 or something. And when I was doing that, I was doing research on like P90X, because at the time that was the thing. And what became very obvious to me is I did like a focus group. I researched a ton of reviews and everything, but it was like, yeah, the workout works. It's like, yeah, 90 minutes of friggin' strength training works. No shit. Like, shocking. It works, obviously. But the issue that people would have for adherence, longevity wise, wasn't that it stopped working. It was that for them to get their mind mentally ready for 90 minutes was a thing. And that was a way less stressed world then than it is now. So when you think about workouts, think about what your expectations are for that workout. And there might be a part of you that's self-sabotaging that might make you think, man, I have to work out super intensely, or it's if I don't work out for 30 minutes is enough, 15 minutes is enough, 5 minutes is enough. It's like, okay, well, no minutes is enough. That's better than 5 minutes, really? Come on. Like, obviously, that's not the case. So you got to be aware of that, though, and then literally objectively talk yourself through it, right? When I say that out loud, it sounds a little bit different when it's in your head, right? So we want to sort of isolate that and set yourself up for success. Now, this might surprise you, but like I work out on average 4 to 5. I for up until like the last few years, I was on average about 5 or 6 days a week since I was 14 or 13. Right? I'm 39. The last few years, I started to notice, okay, my recovery has become more of a thing. Stress, like I'm not able to do that as regularly 6 days a week. But either way, maybe when I was in high school, that's one thing. Maybe when I was in college, that was one thing. But certainly since running businesses, and I've started, you know, 8 or 9 businesses since I was 22, 7 of which were brick and mortars. Brick and mortars are a lot of work, especially when you don't have a lot of money behind you. You're just bootstrapping, it's a lot of work. Okay. For me, since being a professional adult, like 22 when I started my first business, working out hasn't been something I look forward to most of the time. Now, when I was bodybuilding, that was a little bit different, you know. There's a little time in my life where I could for about an hour, hour and a half. Like I could make that work at that stage of my life. That was about a year, 2 years, but that's not possible for me most of the time. So I don't want to. I want you guys to like. This is an important point because I think it's too easy to look at people and just assume like, oh, they just love working out. It's so easy for them. They have good genetics. They work out all day. They're in the, this, that, the other thing. You look on social media and you just assume that those people make it look so easy. They have it so easy. You're only hurting yourself if you do that. And I can be the first one to tell you directly is that I don't always look forward to working out. Most times I don't. I just know with every ounce of anything in my body that like something above nothing is progress. And I know that if I can just start, I will feel better than I didn't do anything at all. And now more than ever, I'm way more in tune with how my recovery is. So if I'm feeling like I can't be intense, that's fine. I'm not going to set that expectation in my brain because that's going to probably prevent me from working out. So I don't. Instead, it's just like, look, the win is the completion. I don't care how I get there. And you might have an argument to say, oh, that's, must be nice if I did that. Well, no, 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 no. Muscle compounds. And to maintain muscle, it's not actually hard. If you're working out regularly and eating a lot of protein, it's actually very easy. That's how you maintain muscle. The hard part is getting into routine and building and sticking with it. I don't fall off because I don't really allow it. I just don't. If I need a week off, I will, but that's it. Right back on, no matter hungover, tired, no matter what's going on in my life. I work 80 plus hours a week. Going to do it. So my point to you here is that like, if you set the expectation of like completion over intensity, like you're way better off. And the part of you that will say, well, that's not enough, that's just self sabotage, nothing more. And the more you want to listen to it, that's fine, but it's going to keep you stuck. So just again, set yourself up with the idea that anything above nothing is something and it's progress. And if you can just remember that, you'll be good. All right. So, with that being said, final things on habits, and we're going to get into a little hypnosis. Uh, make your habits smaller than you think. Don't think about this is where everybody makes a mistake. They think about, well, what can I do? Oh, well, I can work out 3 hours a week, 3 times a week. I'm like, well, how many times a week did you work out last week? None. What about last month? Twice. What? Okay, how about this then? How about 3 times a week for like 5 minutes? Can we start there? Oh, it's easy. All right, cool. Then just do that for a while and then we'll go from there, right? So start smaller than you think. Attach it to something existing. This is called habit stacking. So, for me, I get to spend time with my kids in the morning. before work. I don't go into like 9 or 10. So like most days that's a way to get a workout in, you know. Um, Cooking, if I'm cooking dinner, I'm cooking for the next few days, right? I'm not waiting to meal prep. I'm getting my Tupperware out and doing it as I'm doing that, you know? So, like, that's habit stacking. So, how can you habit stack? Attach it to something existing, and your life will be easier. Remove the emotional barrier. Like, I don't feel like it. This won't work for me. Whatever, this is not enough. Like, just get rid of it. Just objective, yes or no. Did you or not? It's just very binary. Completion is what you're after. Okay.